G'day viewers, today we've got a league match between Queensland champ Andrew Roger on the left and Australian national champ Daryl Russell on the right. He's playing Genomics. Andrew's testing out the new ID from Data and Destiny, Sunny. So straight into it, Daryl icing up, Andrew starting with a baby and a Earthrise hotel. Getting that Earthrise in with career fare for cheap, so nice little bit of synergy. Daryl getting Mushin Notion to triple advance, a remote and another remote. So let's see if Andrew wants to check this early in the game. Now, the idea with this Genomics deck that Daryl's brewed up is that you only got 6 agendas in there and a couple of ShiQs. So you've got 2 vanity projects, which are 4-pointers, and a couple of global food, a couple of future perfects. So tricky to find these actual agendas, and then tricky to get to 7 with the 2 ShiQs on there as well. So the melange is up and running, passing back to Andrew. He'll probably be keen to trash that before the Genomics trash cost starts to increase. So Dirty Laundry onto the melange, drawing with John Masonori. So pretty good value out of that Dirty Laundry, getting rid of the melange. You can see that Andrew's installed a security chip, a couple of security chips now. Those temporarily can boost Sunny's breakers. And he's got a multi-threader up. So with Sunny's double link, all her breakers don't take up any memory. So you can use that extra memory to run multi-threader. Seems to be the most useful way of getting value out of that extra memory. So, and data suckers obviously as well. So you get Desperado credits. Andrew's got a Desperado, data sucker, John Masonori. So getting lots of value out of these runs. Hitting up archives and hitting those 2 ShiQs I was talking about before. So Andrew's starting from behind the 8 ball with -2 points on the board. So he'll have a way to go to find 9 agenda points, particularly with the global foods being only worth 2. You're in a position where out of the 6 agendas Daryl runs, Andrew's probably going to end up having to steal 4 of those 6. So you've got to get a lot of access. And Daryl will be just cycling those agendas back through the deck, I think, and trying to recycle snares and agendas so they're difficult to find, and just do it. And so Andrew able to sniff out that Ronin before it was able to land him, which is nice. But Daryl's plan is basically to tax you with net damage, mill your deck down, and just win a slow war of attrition. So there's the Sanju up. That's going to have an added trash cost. I think it looks like 2 or 3 face down cards in there already. Andrew paying 4, it looks like. So, or maybe a net of 4 with Desperado. So still with no breakers up, but Econ looking decent, and the early engine with the Desperado, Data Sucker, and Masonori is decent to check remotes and get a little value for your effort. In a world where you've got a lot of NBN spamming remotes out, Sunny's ability to use her Jack Sinclair, which you'll see a bit later, I think. Well, already Jack Sinclair's out with John Masonori, so you get a free click basically at the start to check remotes. As long as you don't use any programs, you can basically just use that to check things without wasting clicks, and then pick up extra value with Masonori and Desperado. So Andrew drawing up. Just designating Jackson with the Sinclair and Masonori, so he gets a free draw, a free credit at the start of his turn, which is really nice. You've got these compromised employees, which are, underworld contracts, which are basically mandatory for Sunny. They just give Sunny some free econ based on that 2 link that she gets. So Daryl icing up Jackson to put an end to the freebies Andrew's been feasting on for the last few turns. Deciding where he wants to put the Jack Sinclair server, puts it on HQ. See if Daryl wants to rose here. So we've got a lockdown. So he won't be able to draw cards for the remainder of the turn. So let's see what he ends up accessing. I'm sure Daryl's stashed some snares in his hand just for these situations. Sure enough, hits the snare. What's the trash cost on the snare? That's horrible, playing Genomics and not really wanting to trash a snare when the trash cost is, I think he played a net of 3 or 4 there to get rid of that. Hitting Sherman, Overmind, and Dirty Laundry. So these Sunny breakers, they're not hugely efficient, but given that you're going to install multi-threaders and data sucker, it kind of mitigates the inefficiency of the breaker with the efficiency gains that you get from the recurring credits, the data sucker tokens and the Desperado credits. So overall, you get quite an efficient package. So we've got Daryl mutioning another card and advancing it again. So threatening a Ronin, but also a Junebug is pretty horrible with 4 counters. Let's see how Andrew deals with that, if he wants to check it or not. He might not be game. Of course, the problem is Vanity Project. He's also threatening to score 4 points. And with 4 points and a bunch of 3-pointers, you're threatening to go to match point. So, very tricky decision. Depending on what's in your hand, there it is, the Vanity Project. He manages to sneak that out undefended. So now Andrew's in a position where any advanced cards you may need to go ahead and check them now, just because it'd be pretty weak to lose a game just on another bluffed agenda. And so Daryl can take advantage of that by playing advanced traps and forcing Andrew to soak up the damage with Junebugs. So Andrew's still only with the Sentry Breaker. You see the Code Gate Breaker come out, and I think one of the Barrier Breakers was in the trash. Pretty sure you'd run 2 copies. Checking archives now. By this stage of the game, you'd expect a shock or 2 to be in there. But Andrew obviously needs to deal with that Jackson at some stage. So we've got the Crick. It's dealt with reasonably well. Actually, with Sunny's Breaker and a Data Sucker token, you get there reasonably cheaply. Hits a shock, loses a Dirty Laundry, but not the end of the world. Just Andrew deciding where he wants to run. Trying to deal with that Jackson. No res, pops the Jackson, puts Mution and Snare and another Mution back in. So all the threatening cards where Daryl can ask the runner, do you really want to check these advanced servers? So tricky for Daryl to actually score out. I don't think Daryl's style is to really want to score out. He wants to trick you into accessing a trap and mill down your deck, or force you into a lose-lose situation where you have to check something that could kill you. So using Jack Sinclair, hitting a Cortex lock, but that's not going to do a ton of damage, I think. Just a couple, given that Sonny's already installed 3 programs that use memory, so not the end of the world. But still, just that damage slowly milling through Andrew's cards. And Andrew's still on -2 points. And with those cards running out, you've got to keep running and keep trying to score agendas before your deck actually, you run out of life points, really. You've got to look at the cards as life points. And they're a limited resource. So Daryl back again with another Jackson, drawing up and dumping cards in, forcing Andrew to consider going back through that crick and eating shocks. Not sure if there's 1 or 2 in there now. But yeah, a real grind of a game playing against Genomics. It often both runner and corp get through most of their deck in these matchups. Andrew drawing and then going for the hand, hitting another snare, so some more damage. This time able to trash, which is reasonable. Not too many extra cards face down in Daryl's archive, so the cost was reasonable. And accessing a Kitsune. Kitsune, a really great card for Daryl's deck here, because it just forces you to access a snare again. If he can keep a snare in hand at most times, which seems to be the method that he uses. So we've got a face down unadvanced card, which is a little different. I'm not sure what that's going to be. Andrew keen to check a melange. Can't afford really to trash that melange. It looks like he does anyway. Another Cortex lock. Happy to eat the damage from it and continue on, and a pop-up. Caesar Future Perfect. Finally, Andrew's got a chance to score some points. Daryl's econ, not huge here, so you'd be tempted to bid 0 or 1, I'd say. Both runners and corp bid 0, so Andrew off the mark, up to 1 point with those Shikyus, so still a way to go. But this time Andrew has a way to access cards now. He can get into R&D. He knows there's nothing too sketchy unresed. So you'd hope Andrew can access some agendas now that R&D stack's getting nice and thin. You'd hopefully think that despite being only 6 agendas in the deck, there'd be a reasonable probability of finding them by now. So checking the double advance card, hitting the June bug. Andrew's deck almost out. I think just 1 card sitting there in his stack. So the June bug taking out, I think, 4. And doesn't bother to get rid of the June bug. Not much point at this stage. So I think Daryl's got where he is needed to be. Andrew, I think, only with a few life points left, really, with those cards. He'll use the baby to draw the last one, and he'll need to find 6 more points with just a few cards. So another snare would be horrifying if that was the case. Jackson's still on the board, so you can always cycle those snares back in. Hits was that a shock? Don't know. I couldn't quite tell. Kitsune, as we saw before. This is... what is this gonna... is this gonna be another snare? Yep. So this could be the beginning of the end, I think, for Andru. It's gonna be tough going to get to 7. Now, what's he got in his hand? Just one more card before he mills out. So Genomics, one of the few corps that can play this strategy, a run-a-mill strategy where you just burn the runner's cards away and stop them from getting to 7 just by sheer lack of available points and lack of available agendas. You can even potentially just hide agendas in archives, given that the runner's never going to be keen to go in there with potentially 2 or 3 shocks in there at that stage of the game. I think Andrew just checking the face-up cards. So potentially you can hide 3 of the agendas in archives and only have 1 floating around live in the game. So really, really tricky to figure out how to beat this Genomics deck, especially with only 1 card left in hand. I don't like his chances. Getting global food, so up to 3 now, so still a glimmer of hope. Let's see what Daryl can do. Ronins and Junebugs are great in these situations where Andrews basically has to check them and can't really afford to trash them. So lots of problems for the runner in this situation. He would have been hoping to get some agendas on the early accesses, but given that density is so low, can't always hope for an early score. Andrew now with the global security clearance installed, so that lets him lose a click to check the top card of R&D, which is nice. He can just check the R&D without actually having to run, without having to spend resources. So it's a cheap way of getting a sort of an R&D lock without having to spend too much. But Daryl popping that Jackson now, getting those snares back into contention, and with just a few cards left in the stack, the chance of hitting one of those snares in relation to hitting an agenda becomes almost equal. If there's 3 snares floating around and only 3 agendas. So motioning, I think. So Daryl threatening to take the game now if that's a future perfect or global food. So Andrew checks, sees the Ronin. Can he afford to get rid of it? He has to. Andrew's still hanging on. If he can just sneak a few more accesses, he can maybe just get a vanity project right now, just wins. So there's always a chance. And Daryl's just sort of got to coax Andrew into hitting something that's going to just finish him off. So installing an unadvanced card. And Andrew is thinking he knows he can't have much time left to score. Knows he can't really go into archives, so he's just going to have to find the agenda in the central somehow. Daryl bouncing that failed trap back into his hand and collecting some credits. Hits the future perfect. So now with a chance to go up to 6 points. So Daryl with plenty of money now. I'm not sure what you'd bid. You'd almost want to randomize it with both runner and corp having a decent amount of money in their pool. So Andrew, I think he's seen that future perfect, and yeah, going after it now. Both spending 2, so Andrew up to 6 now. So just one more agenda. It's a real hassle trying to score out here. Andrew already got 9 points at face value, but only worth 6 for the SheQs and the global food, all being worth 1 less. So normally you would have won comfortably in this, but checking R&D for the win, but still can't find it. Do you check this double advance remote, knowing that it can kill you? Probably not. Checking the face-up cards. It just wants to figure out what the odds are of that being a June bug, I think. Going back and checking again. What do you do here? I think you leave it, hope for the best in the central servers. But if that's a Kitsune again on HQ, that's game as well. So you've got to make a guess, and any of the guesses you make can potentially kill you. Really tough for Andrew. Runs the unadvanced card. That's a snare, that's game. So Andrew agonizingly close, but just not enough cards in the deck to find the 4 out of 6 agendas to win. So that's game. Thanks for watching. I'm Alex Marchuk signing off.